Jim McElwain's Central Michigan Chippewas were this close to breaking into the postseason in 2023. They went 5-7 last year, but 2024 looks like a year where this Central Michigan Chippewas team can compete for a spot in a bowl game yet again. Sure, they did lose a couple pieces, including their primary starting quarterback from last season, but you got some really good young talent coming up, some good transfers coming in. Overall, you just gotta have a really good feeling about this Chippewas team this year. Can the Chippewas be a player in a MAC conference title game, or at very least find their way into the postseason? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? I want to welcome you to my channel. Whether this is your first time, your 80th time, your 900th time, whatever it is, please thank you so much for supporting this channel, and please continue to do so. Thank you so much for watching this video. Help support my channel in more ways you can even imagine. Go back and watch my other prediction videos, guys. We got less than 30 of these left. We are almost done. It's the home stretch now, and make sure that you know your thoughts on your favorite program in case I haven't done them already, or in case they have a video up. Heck, go back and watch it. And if you're as big of a college football nerd as me, you're going to want to subscribe and ring the bell, especially if you love to talk college football during the season, because that's what I'll be doing all season long. And hey, do other ways to help support the channel. Interact with it in any way you can. Like, comment, share, and do any of the other things I said before. Anything else I didn't say, it all helps support the channel, and anything you're willing and able to do does mean a lot to me. But enough about that. I'm sure you guys know all that. Let's dive on into talking about Chippewa football here in 2024. How do we do that? Well, we'll take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the defense, and at the end of the video, we'll go through the Chippewa football schedule, give it a game-by-game preview and prediction, but I do have to tell you a couple more things before we get started, because right over here will be the stats a team put up either offensively or defensively last season, and of course, for your viewing pleasure, dear viewer, right below the team's logo, I have put the team's coaching staff. No further introduction. Let's dive on in, talking about the Central Michigan Chippewas, and we will start with the offensive side of the ball as we usually do. Now, the offense last year, well, did have a fairly solid running game, but it wasn't that great on third down, and the pass game had their inconsistencies last season, something they're going to look to try to change here in 2024, but that's going to be a little bit hard to do when your primary quarterback, Jace Bauer, from last season is gone. 1,881 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions last season. He was hovering right around 57% completion percentage and only around 6.6 yards per completion last year. Jace Bauer does enter the transfer portal. He will now try to battle it out in that quarterback battle there with Sam Houston State to try to be that starter over with the Bearcats. But you do have some returning pieces to this quarterback room. Tyler Jefferson is back, didn't throw a pass last year, but the guy that is notable and the guy that probably will end up getting the start here is Burt Emanuel Jr. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but I do also have to mention that Joe Labas does transfer in from Iowa, so he's going to be battling it out with Emanuel for that quarterback position, but I do think Burt Emanuel is more equipped to win that job, and I think he gives them their better shot to win. Burt Emanuel last season did have limited playing time, went 19 of 37 for 286 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 picks, but he's a very effective runner on the ground. A lot more effective than what Jace Bauer was here with this program, because when you go ahead and take a look at stats from last season, Bauer did have 121 carries, 365 yards, and 10 touchdowns, but you look at Burt Emanuel and almost 70, or I should say over 70 less carries, 50 carries for 220 yards and only 2 touchdowns. He was a full yard and a half better in yards per carry than what Jace Bauer was. And I know quarterback's primary option, throw the football, yes. But having a quarterback, especially in the college game, that can get outside of the pocket and run is a very, very good weapon to have. Burt Emanuel, in my opinion, does it better than what Jace Bauer does. I feel like you're going to get either similar or better quarterback play from Burt Emanuel than you did with Jace Bauer last season. And I'm really excited to see him fit into this Jim McElwain offense, which doesn't lose any notable running backs from last year. I think a couple depth pieces might be gone through the portal or graduated or what have you, but your main 3 guys do come back. Marion Lukes, Miles Bailey were the top 2 rushers last season. Both of them had over 100 carries. Lukes had 144 with 735 yards and 5 touchdowns, and Bailey 101, 476 yards and 3 touchdowns last year, right around the 5 yards per carry range for both of them, give or take a few tenths of a yard. And then you do get some depth pieces coming back, but most notably is BJ Harris, not BJ Hicks. There was another running back that played for Central Michigan last year by the name of Sam Hicks, who is no longer with the team, so that's kind of one of those pieces that does leave. And I just kind of sort of combined first and last names, I guess. So no, not BJ Hicks, it is BJ Harris, and he is back, had 19 carries last season. He'll probably end up being that third string option with Lukes and Bailey leading the charge in the run game this season, along with the dual threat quarterback in Burt Emanuel Jr. Wide receiver room, you don't really lose a whole ton of notable pieces, but you do lose a guy that was darn near 100 yards last season, Thomas Panunzio. And apologies if that last name pronunciation was wrong, but he had 12 catches for 99 yards and a touchdown last season. Now, before we start talking about the wide receiver room and who's coming back, Lukes and Bailey both had at least, or I should say, Bailey had 14 catches with 112 yards last season. Lukes had 29 catches for 300 yards last season. Those are your fourth and fifth leading rusher, or not leading rushers, leading receivers, respectively, out of the running back room. So you're getting some good wide receiver production out of your running backs here, but your top three receivers from last season all come back. Tyson Davis had 444 yards and 4 touchdowns last year. Jesse Pruitt, 438 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Chris Parker, 409 yards and 3 touchdowns. All, as you can see, with very, very similar numbers. And they're all play big parts of this wide receiver room this upcoming season. Stephen Bracey does come back to sort of be, or Stephen Bracey, I guess I should say, to sort of be a depth piece here. And you can list a lot more depth pieces to this wide receiver room as well. But you also get a transfer coming into this program. His name, Solomon Davis. He is coming over from Valparaiso. Tommy McIntosh is a Wisconsin transfer. And I think there's a community college transfer I might be missing in here as well. But Solomon Davis probably going to play the biggest role out of any wide receiver transfer that enters here. And out of the tight end room, you do technically lose your, I should say not technically yes, but you do lose your top receiving target among tight ends last season, which was Mitchell Collier, had a tight end high 88 yards for 3 touchdowns. Now, I couldn't find really how he leaves because I'm pretty sure he had eligibility left, but he's not on the roster and things like that. So Chippewa fans, let me know in the comment section below. But let's talk about the tight ends that are coming back here. And yes, while they don't necessarily utilize the tight ends a whole lot, it's still going to be a pretty important position here to this offense, as it is with any offense. So Corian Temple, Jacob Kaminsky, and Rory Callahan are going to be playing the tight end position for the Chippewas this season. 3 losses, my apologies, out of the offensive line room. Deontay Powell-Woods has run out of eligibility and graduated. Cade Klimczak is gone through the transfer portal, as well as Keegan Smith off through the portal. Both of those guys were either starters or saw starting playing time for this team last season. So who comes back to the offensive line room? Well, you do get a lot of names back. Davis Heinzen, Martin Koivisto, apologies for last name mispronunciations, by the way, Vashawn Bailey, Braden Swartout, Dominic Sarapigla, and Brady Plucha are all coming back here to this offensive line room. And I know I butchered at least one, maybe even more of those names, so I apologize profusely. And you get a couple names coming in here through the transfer portal. Luis Martinez and Jameel Jackson are in through the portal. I think a couple other pieces come in through the portal as well. But other than that, that's going to be your offensive set here, at least the known projected main contributors here for the Chippewa offense. And look, it starts out with Burt Emanuel. What does he give you from the quarterback position? I think you saw what he can give you running the football last season. Yes, I know it was in limited playing time. Throwing the football, you probably need a little bit more development there. Get the decision-making to be a little bit better. Form chemistry with these wide receivers. But look, when your top 3 receivers are back, your top 2 rushers are back, you have what I assume is going to be a pretty solid offensive line. Yes, they gave up 26 sacks last year, and look, but overall, they allowed the run game to be as successful as it was last season. The pass game is where you want to find consistency with this offense, and they're going to help. Burt Emanuel is going to provide that for the Chippewas this season. When you go ahead and take a look at the defensive side of the ball for CMU, it goes ahead and looks like this. Now, last season, you go and take a look at, I'll just back up here one slide here. Very, very similar numbers to what their offense put up that their defense allowed last season. And I just flipped back and forth there for an easy comparison. If you missed it and want to go back and rewatch it, just rewind the video. Look at the rushing stats they put up. Look at the rushing stats their defense put up. And they are very, very similar. So overall, when I'm taking a look at this defense this season, I don't know. It's got a lot of pieces here to figure out. There are some things and pieces that you have to fill in. There are some positions to where some pieces are going to have to play, some players are going to have to play a higher role than what they did last season. And overall, you're just losing some pretty solid talent out of pretty much every level of this defense. We'll start out here with the defensive line. You are losing Jacques Bristol and Maurice White, who are both going to be gone due to graduation. Now, Bristol last year did lead the team in sacks, 44 tackles and 4 sacks. And White last season, well, was a pretty pretty good defensive lineman in his own right. He was second on the team in sacks, 3.5 sacks for him last season. My apologies. Quindario Lee is another very notable loss here, 28 tackles, and he was third on the team in sacks last year. So your top 1, 2, 3 guys in the sack production department last year are all gone. Okay, so what do you return to this defensive line room? Well, Jason Williams does come back, and this is a big get back for this defensive line room. I believe your second leading tackler among defensive linemen last year, as Bristol was first, had 36 tackles last season, did have a sack there as well, and a lot of other pieces do return behind him. Michael Heldman, Jonah Pace, Jonathan Stewart, and Cade Costas, some of those more depth pieces last year that will see increased roles here in 2024, as well as a couple of transfers. Jaden Davis is the most notable one to me. I think he'll see the most playing time out of any transfer that comes in, and Pius Ojugo, again, apologies for mispronunciations, enters through the portal as well. You go ahead and take a look. Speaking of the transfer portal, well, you lose one of your better defensive players from last year to it. I believe he is off to join a Power 4 program. I'll fact check that here. When Kyle Moretti is gone, and no, he is not. I'm sort of thinking backwards here about a linebacker transfer that's transferring in who's not on board. We'll talk about him in a second. But Kyle Moretti is going to go over and join Sean Lewis at San Diego State. Last season, the team's second leading tackler, 62 tackles, 2 sacks, 5 pass defended. Really good defensive player, and Nick Apsey is gone out of the room as well. 17 tackles for him last season. No more eligibility for him. He has graduated. So who all comes back? Well, Justin Whiteside is back. 53 tackles for him last year. He was a top 5 tackler. Dakota Cochran, Jordan Kwiatkowski, Fernando Sanchez, and Lawaya Brown, again, apologies for mispronunciations, they all come back here, and Nolan Ziegler is a Notre Dame transfer that enters through the transfer portal. Who knows? He could see some pretty good playing time for the Chippewa defense this season. Defensive back room, let's talk about it. Cornerback room, what do you lose? Well, Javarius Sims and Laveria Wiley are both going to be gone here through the transfer portal. Javarius Sims, you go ahead and take a look at what he was able to put up last year. 23 tackles and 3 sacks last season, while not 3 sacks, 3 passes defended is what I meant to say. And Laveria Wiley, 21 tackles, 1 pass defended. Both of them really solid players in their own right last season. And out of the safety room, there should be an and sign instead of a comma, so apologies for that. But hey, Trey Jones and Jadavion Stepney will both be gone out of this safety room. And Trey Jones is the big loss on this, well, one of the big losses here on this defense, but the big loss in the defensive back room. And I mean the really big loss. 66 tackles, 2 pass defended, 1 interception. You could argue he was the best defensive back for this team last season, but you can't argue that he was the team's leading tackler. That is proven fact. So anytime you lose your leading tackler, it's a pretty notable loss. Jadavion Stepney last season as well. Pretty solid player here in his own right. 15 tackles, 1 pass defended for him last year. So when you take a look at the defensive back room and who's all coming back, well, Marquez Badgett is going to be coming back here to this defensive back room. And again, with a lot of the guys here in this cornerback position, they're probably going to need to see some increased roles this season, and there should be an extra T, so I'll add that here. So you do get him coming back, 9 tackles, 2 pass defended, 1 interception last season. Teron McKinney is also back. And you also get some guys in through the portal in Akeem Snell and Jeree Turner Kinsler. That should be Turner Kinsler, not Tuner Kinsler. Well, they both come in through the transfer portal. Dante Kent is back to this defensive back room in the safety department. Led the team with 7 passes defended last season, 58 tackles, half a sack. Pretty good defensive player. Could be your best defensive back here in 2024. Caleb Spann, Elijah Ricard, Ed Connerin, they all come back here, and Brendan Deos Fernandez, and I probably mispronounced that last name brutally, but he does come in here through the portal. He is an Iowa transfer that, I don't know, I think is actually going to see some pretty solid playing time here this season, and he'll probably start for the Central Michigan defense. And you know I like to give love to the kickers because, hey, they are people too, so let's show them some love. Jake Walrath is gone. The punter has graduated, so you dive into the portal, get a new punter in David Chapeau, as well as, I believe, a freshman coming in. And just had to switch a couple letters around on the kicker as Tristan Matson does come back here to be the primary place kicker yet again for the Chippewas this season. Defensively, what are you looking for to improve? Well, pretty much everything that you can see improve this season. I think in ways it has the potential to get better, but I don't know. There have to be some pieces that fit in the right way, especially guys that were in the depths of the roster and the depths of the depth chart last season. Take a step up, play a bigger role. That's going to be the key thing here. How do the transfers fit into the defensive back room? The transfers in the defensive front, what are they going to be able to do? Overall, I think there's a lot to figure out for this defense, and it's one of the more it's one of the bigger mysteries to a MAC team to me. I really don't know how this defense is going to fare out. It could be the same, but it also could be better or worse. So we'll see how the Chippewa defense fares in 2024. But now we got to real quickly run through the first couple games of their schedule because I rambled on a little bit. Hey, any game at home will be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics or that slanted text. Any game in green is going to be an easy win for the Chippewas, while any game in yellow is going to be a close competitive game, but one I still see the Chippewas being able to win, and any game in red, of course, is a loss. Again, like I said, we're going to run through these first couple games here pretty quickly for Central Michigan. Let's run through the first three here really darn quickly. They're going to be able to beat their FCS level team that they're able to play. I believe that's Central Connecticut State. So I don't really think they're going to be able to have much trouble there. But then you have to go on the road and play the FIU Panthers. Now, the Florida International Panthers, I think, are going to be a feisty team out of Conference USA this year, but I overall do see Central Michigan as the more talented team, and I think they're going to be able to go on the road down in Florida and be able to get this win. Now, like, FIU's got some solid talent coming back. They've got some good transfers coming in here, especially in that wide receiver room. There are a couple of them that could improve that wide receiver room from a season ago, but overall, Keon Jenkins, I'm just not a huge fan of him at the quarterback position, even though he could be solid. Some good pieces coming back. I just don't think FIU is going to be up to the task to beat Central Michigan Chippewas, and I think they have the better quarterback there when Bert Emanuel probably is going to end up getting that start there for him, and then they will lose on the road against the Illinois Fighting Illini. I just don't really see them there winning that game. Illinois is a team that, look, at points was pretty good last season, but for most of it, they just were not that great. Defense took a step back. I think that'll take a step forward. Luke Altmaier, I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was last season. He'll improve in some ways, and Illinois will be a much better team out of the Big Ten fray this season. So Central Michigan starts 2-1 out of their first three games, but I also think they start out 3-1 when they go ahead and beat Ball State. Again, just not a huge fan of the Ball State Cardinals this year. There are a couple of those teams in the Mid-American Conference that I just don't really see a whole lot to get excited about with them. Now, granted, with Ball State, you do have a lot of younger players in major positions, coupled with a lot of more experienced, skilled players there as well. Talking about the quarterback position, when Caden Samanza probably going to end up getting that start for him, although you do get Chase Harrison in through the portal. Defense has some experienced pieces, but some young talent there as well. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to mesh well for Ball State this year, and that's a win for the Chippewas, but I do think they will lose this home game against the San Diego State Aztecs. The Aztecs were not a great team last season, but now Brady Hoke is retired, and you flip the script, the defensive guy for an offensive guy. There are a lot of those coaching changes in college football this year. You move from Brady Hoke over to Sean Lewis. I think the offense is going to see their explosion this season. I still think the defense is going to be pretty solid this year. A ton of talented transfers enter that room, and I'm just a huge fan of Sean Lewis as a head coach. He was able to build Kent State to what it was there for a little bit of time in the Mid-American Conference. Obviously, Kent State competing for conference championships when Sean Lewis was there. I think in time, San Diego State will get the same way. Could see their struggles this year, but overall, I do think they're more talented than Central Michigan, and I think they'll be able to get that win. And then Central Michigan gets their first bye week of the season before they get to play the Ohio Bobcats. Now, making the case for them to win this one is pretty easy. So I'm going to do the opposite here for just a second. Look, okay, I'm going to sort of do the first, then the opposite, then go back to it. Ohio lost a lot of pieces from last year. Top two wide receivers, some really good wide receiver talent, really good defensive pieces, starting quarterback. It's all gone off of last year's team. However, they still have one of the better head coaches in the Mid-American Conference in Tim Albin. You bring in some really talented transfers in the defensive front and the wide receiver room, respectively. But in pretty much every position grouping, you bring in a transfer that I think is going to help you out here in 2024. But I think Central Michigan's going to get this one done. Again, Ohio's going to see their struggles in waves this year. How do some of these transfers mesh? And I just think, again, Central Michigan has enough talent to compete with a team like Ohio, and I think they're going to be able there to get that win. These next two games, though, for Central Michigan, I don't think go over so well, and you fall back down to 500. Eastern Michigan is a team that it really is quite confusing to try to figure out last season, and I think they're going to be confusing to figure out this year as well, because when I take a look at that team from last year, I mean, look, we all know that the offense just was not great, and this is a team that needed a lot of help in a lot of different position groupings. Defense overall was solid, but they lose their top two linebackers and top two tacklers overall from a season ago. And overall, I mean, you're really just taking a look here at this Eastern Michigan team and kind of wondering what's going on. Well, Cole Snyder's coming in at quarterback. You got some good pieces coming in the skill position room. Defense returns a lot of good pieces despite those two linebackers leaving. I do like Eastern Michigan this year. Like Chris Creighton as a head coach, I think they can go back and go bowling, and they beat Central Michigan. And then I think Miami, this is not a hard one to make make a case for. They're going to be the most talented team in the MAC of this season. Brett Gabbert is back. Ty Wise and Matt Salopek are back. A lot of good pieces around the offense, around the defense. They're going to be a really good team this year. MAC champs last year, MAC favorites this year. They will beat the Central Michigan Chippewas right there. But Central Michigan, now they get their second bye week, and they're entering MACtion play. I think they go 2 for 2 the rest of the way, which means they make a bowl game. So the question is, who do they beat and who do they lose to? Well, I think they win their 2 home games. The first one here against the Bowling Green Falcons. Now, look, if there's any season for the Bowling Green Falcons to really explode, it is going to be this season. You get Connor Bazelak back at quarterback. You get Terrion Stewart back at running back. The wide receiver, yes, you do lose some really good pieces in the wide receiver room, but you bring in a lot of talented transfers. The defense has some really good pieces coming back, is very experienced. You get some good transfers coming in. Watch out for the Falcons this year, but I think they're going to trip up in a couple of these games. It's their first MACtion game, and I think the home team here in Central Michigan going to prevail. They get that win against Bowling Green, but they do lose to Toledo in their second MACtion game. Look, even though Toledo lost to Quan Finn, they lost Penny Boone, they lost some really good defensive pieces, including their leading tackler, a linebacker by the name of Dallas Gant. You got a lot of wide receiver pieces coming back. I don't think Tucker Gleason, yes, while he might not provide the level of production that DeQuan Finn did, he's still going to be a really good quarterback for this team. Toledo's still going to be one of the most talented teams in the MAC. Jason Candle, you could argue, is the best head coach in the MAC, and I think Toledo does win that game. Last 2 games here very quickly. Western Michigan's a tricky puzzle piece to figure out. They got a lot of players leaving, a lot of transfers coming in, some pieces just overall to figure out. And I don't know, I like Central Michigan a lot more than their in-state counterparts in Western Michigan, but I do not like Central Michigan more than the NIU Huskies. I think the Huskies are going to be a very solid team this year. Thomas Hammond seems to kind of have this thing where Northern Illinois sees some success and then doesn't, sees some success and then doesn't. They saw success last year. I think that continues, and NIU beats Central Michigan. So 6-6 for the Chippewas. Jim McElwain's club is going bowling. I think Bert Emanuel is going to provide solid quarterback play. I think these transfers are going to fit in well. You have a lot of returning talent in that skill position room offensively. All the puzzle pieces are here for Central Michigan to make a bowl game. That's exactly what I'm predicting for the Chippewas in 2024. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. And in my next video, we'll talk about the UAB Blazers. Goodbye.